Hi, here I wanted to look at another cold case. In 2011, Katelyn Markham, a 22-year-old art student from Ohio, disappeared from her townhouse without a trace. Only her cell phone was gone, her purse, car, everything was still at home. The last person who had seen her was her boyfriend of 6 years and fiancé, John Carter. He made a suspicious 911 call, which was excellently analyzed by statement analyst Peter Hyatt, clearly implicating her boyfriend in her disappearance. But no hard evidence could be found. Nevertheless, her cell phone was found at a local road. Almost 2 years later, her skeleton was found at an illegal dump site at a remote country road 30 miles away from her townhouse, across a border in Indiana. Importantly, that road was only a few miles away from his parents' property. Here we will analyze the fiancé in short interview clips he gave, keeping in mind that we don't have a proper baseline, how he normally would act. So let's get started. In particular, I'm looking here for embedded confessions. I will explain a little later.
People are going to say what they're going to say. You can't stop them.
This is very understanding for someone who apparently didn't do anything, no sign of anger.
23-year-old John Carter may not be able to stop the
So he just looks amazingly relaxed here, leaning back, doing nothing about his missing girlfriend of 6 years.
comments, but he can certainly make sure that people know how he feels.
I'm not going to acknowledge the ridiculous things that people are saying because I know.
So I know this was an embedded confession. It's a Freudian slip of tongue. He's just said he knows more than what he's saying.
Nobody's going to know.
This is another one. He's trying to correct his language, but he's so obsessed with trying to avoid to say anything suspicious, so the words come out wrong.
About me. They don't know me.
Yeah.
And I know me.
Okay, now he's getting back to what he wanted to say. He tried to fix it.
That I would never hurt Katelyn, ever, in a million years.
This is an exaggeration. It's not about whether he would hurt her in a million years. He's not going to be around in a million years. It's about whether he killed her a few days ago.
That's pretty much it. There's nothing.
That's very pessimistic. If she's just missing, why would he say something like that? If she's really missing, he should get up and do something about it. And there's a sign of duping delights. It's when one mouth corner goes up. This is sort of a hidden smile when he knows something other people don't know. And this gives him some sort of pleasure.
And it's horrific.
So there's no sign of him being horrified. There's no widening of the eyes in terms of fear. There's no wrinkling between his eyes and lowering of his eyebrows if he would be angry. So no signs of him being horrified about this. Now this is another interview just a few days after she gone missing. So the thing is now overall he looks quite slow. When one tries to avoid giving anything away which implicates oneself, there's a cognitive overload happening. He has to control what he's saying. He can't just say normally what comes out. He has to control it somehow. And one way to do it is to appear overall very slow, to speak very slow, to look kind of goofy. And that's what he is in these videos. However, we don't know what his baseline is. However, even with this editing in his mind, this extra control, there will still be signs of embedded confessions. So here I'm quoting the German magician Thorsten Havener, who talks about mind control. So if I tell you, don't think of a blue elephant, then all you can do is think about the blue elephant in order to avoid thinking about it. And this is the same with these culprits who try to avoid giving anything away. And then still certain things pop up because all they can think about is this event. They're trying to avoid talking about it. So there will be embedded confessions.
I keep screaming that I just want her back. I mean, that's...
So this is an odd word, screaming. Why would he say screaming? This is likely to do with the event itself. There was probably a lot of screaming. If there was a fight and something happened to her or he did something to her, there was probably screaming, and there was reported that they have lots of arguments the days before.
That's all I can think about is just having her back and holding her.
So here again, a small sign of duping delight. One mouse corner going up, and it's the same one as last time.
Think about is just having her back and holding her.
So here again, even the word holding her, it sounds kind of nice and cheesy, but it might again have to do with the actual event when she went missing. Maybe she held her lifeless body. So these words, they might have meanings in this context. So here's another clip of this interview.
I keep believing that if she is somewhere in the worst case scenario, that she fights her way out.
There's slight contempt here as well. If one side goes up here. And also the word fight her way out. I'm not sure if this would naturally come out like that. It might be a word which pops in his mind because of the actual events which happened. There might have been a fight.
I keep wanting to believe that because she's strong. I know she's strong.
Again, I mean, it might indicate that they were fighting and she was actually very strong, defending herself.
So she's got to manage to make her way out.
So these are really dramatic things he's talking about, but there's no sign of any emotion in his face. He's completely blocked. Might be because of the cognitive processing that he tries to avoid saying certain things, but then things still pop up, and this is determining what he's saying in the end.
Investigators say Markham's fiance, John Carter, was the last person to see her.
She always had to make a list. She always had to do things that, that would prepare her. So she would never be a whim kind of a person. She wouldn't just up and go. It's totally out of character.
That's an interesting thing with the list. It sounds like a compliment, but in reality it's a kind of criticism, and guilty people try to justify their actions. They try to say something bad about someone. If someone is really missing, a person which is dearly loved, someone would say nothing negative about her. And it's also very interesting. This almost indicates that there's actually a list. And maybe if there's a list, maybe there's even a diary. So there might be actually information about what kind of relationship was going on between John Carter and Katelyn. So Katelyn seems to be the type of person who would write diaries and lists, in terms of what I've heard in interviews. So if there's no list and no diaries, there might be something going on here as well. It might be removed.
Carter says Markham was fine when he left her townhome on Dorshire Drive at around 11 Saturday night. He says Markham was headed to bed after the two had talked about their plans for a trip to Colorado in November. Carter says the couple was hoping to move there.
We'd been talking about
lots of duping delight.
For days. I mean, if she was scared, she would have said something.
Here, duping delight again. Did you guys see that? Yeah, there's a smile.
About going to Colorado for days. I mean,
he's shaking his head. So he's not believing what he's saying.
Scared she would have said something.
So he's shaking his head. So this is also very meaningful because there were apparently lots of fights, and in particular about the future. He was spending money. He didn't want to take responsibility. She was more motivated. She was driven. She wanted to do things. So there's lots of conflict.
I don't know who would do it, or if anybody did it, or.
So here he's touching his ears as a sort of a pacifier.
Up in the air.
So it's interesting with the up in the air. Why does this have nothing to do with her actual disappearance, unless she was taken by a helicopter or some flying bat grabbed her? It might still be about that thing with the list and being always prepared. He might not have liked that. And instead he likes things to be vague and up in the air. It might actually be his motivation or motive for her disappearance.
Did it? Or, I don't know. It's so up in the air.
So I also don't like his voice here. It's very high-pitched. It's very soft. There's no sign of anger or forcefulness. This is really strange.
Katelyn's fiance, John Carter, was the last to see her a year ago.
Huge duping delight. Huge duping delight. And he stopped giving interviews now. Let's look at this in slow motion. Huge smile. Huge duping delight. Fantastic. Wow. Okay, let's briefly look at some actual signs of sadness, true sadness.
There's been times that, there are certain things that bring it real close to my heart, very sadly.
So here's the watery eyes, the swallowing.
I want to see where she's been. It breaks my heart to think that she was lying there for 20 months in the dirt, in the rain, and the snow.
Police officer or detective. I'm a father of a murdered child. I had faith that everything needed to be done was going to be done.
Very sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely she was my best friend. I haven't had many girlfriends ever. She was really my only friend, and her being gone has completely shattered my whole world.
So 6 years later, there's been very little progress on this case. Also, it has been going back and forth between Ohio and Indiana and private investigators. The problem is, of course, the missing evidence. Overall, I also noticed that there's no real focus here. Let's see what the police chief had to say.
With that being said, have you developed any person or people of interest?
We haven't developed any specific individual because we don't know what happened to her. This piece of evidence existed 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. It could have been processed. There was a choice made, a decision made.
Why is she slightly smiling?
But now it is being processed.
Carter is not a person of interest or a suspect at this time. In fact, he says they're not focused right now on any individual.
Wow. In summary, based on the videos, John Carter, as a fiancé, shows strong signs of deception. He behaves very unnaturally under these conditions. For comparison, we looked at real grief, which her dad and her best friend clearly show in the videos I showed. So it's some sort of baseline what compassionate normal people would feel. And so I very much hope that this case from 6 years ago will still be solved. So I hope you liked the video and talk to you next time. Bye.